Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video.
I took a photo and the face was someone I don't know. My son was getting the mail outside, and our camera took a photo of him. It detects movement at our front door. The photo is scaring me. Basically, where my son's face should be, there is this really creepy looking face that isn't my son's face. It barely even looks human. I don't feel comfortable sharing the photo because I care about my son and don't want to just show a picture of the front of our house / my son online, but I am just wondering what this means. I will try to describe what it looks like. This photo was taken during the day. The entire face is different. Around the eyes is just all this blackness, with tiny little dull white dots where the eyes should be. The nose looks like a lizard or something off. It's hard to describe, but it's not his nose. The mouth looks really scary, like really long on both sides like the Joker. But not smiling. And huge dark lips. The mouth is huge in general and long. His chin too is extra bulky and weird. Also, there is no movement in the photo or anything that could distort it. He is looking directly at the camera. Another thing is my son is obsessed with drawing monsters / creepy entities pretty much his entire life. He used to always do this demon voice thing, but I thought he was just playing a game or something, but it got so constant it scared me, so I told him to stop because it was all the time. I have thrown out a lot of his creepy photos because they were giving me nightmares. He stopped doing that and stopped drawing the creepy pictures, but now the photo from our camera is scaring me. What does this mean? Also, I am not making this up and might be willing to share the photo at some point, but I just need advice. What is that thing?
I had many paranormal experiences in the home I grew up in. Here are a few that stood out to me. 1. While lying in bed trying to fall asleep, a drawer on the other side of my room opened with such force that it banged loudly as it reached its maximum length. I shared a room with my brother at the time, and this sent us both sprinting out of the room in fear. 2. One night at 4 a.m., I used to stay up very late. I noticed a vase near the edge of the kitchen top. To ensure no one accidentally knocked it over, I pushed it to the back of the kitchen top against the wall, a good 3 to 4 meter distance. Later, while watching TV, I very clearly hear the vase slide across the kitchen top, followed by it falling onto the ground and smashing. I was the only person awake in the house. 3. Someone came around to replace the wallpaper in the house. The man's name was Jeff. The very first patch of wallpaper that he tore off the wall revealed his name written underneath in red ink. He refused to do the job and left. 4. My dog will absolutely refuse to go upstairs in that house whenever we visit my mom, who still lives in the house. I have carried her upstairs before in the house, and she will tremble with fear and run downstairs as soon as I put her down. She has no issue running upstairs in my house, my in-laws' house, or my father's house.
She read my mind. This is the first time I write about this experience on the internet, and I'm doing it because of a recent post about someone who thought his mind might have been read. It inspired me to share my own experience about this subject. Also, before starting, I'd like to clarify that I'm not a full believer of all the paranormal. It just amazes and entertains me. Now, having said so, as people say in my country, de cave whalen, vwalen. I was 12 at the time I met a girl that is a cousin of one of my, at the time, friends. She lived far from my house, but during the weekend she used to visit her grandmother at my friend's house. That's how we met. She became my girlfriend after a while. She is older than me. At the time she was 14. The day I asked her to be my girlfriend, a normal practice kids do at that age in Venezuela. She kissed me after saying yes, and I say she did it because even though I had had other girlfriends, the most daring thing I had done at that time with them grabbed her by the hand. Whatever, the important thing here is, the kiss took me by surprise. When the kiss happened, an intrusive thought got in my mind. Not words, but images. It was about something really embarrassing and personal that to this day, I haven't told anyone. It's something I prefer carrying to the tomb with me. What happened to a 12-year-old that is so bad to this day he can't say it? Well, in the worldish happens, my friends. Don't ask is just too personal. The main point is the intrusive images in my mind of when we kissed the first time. I know you can already think is over. You may be thinking for sure she told him that secret he has, whatever. Yeah, but read the full experience. There's still a little more in this. So, we were together for 2 months. I broke up with her, to be honest, can't even remember why, and she lived far, so vacations went over, we didn't see each other as much as before. As I started to know her, I realized she was completely normal like me. We used to talk on the phone for hours. She used to tell me about her family, her house, etc. Pretty normal, but from time to time she would tell me about some weird stuff that she can feel. Nothing specific, just that she is more sensitive to certain things related to the paranormal. She had always been like this, and at one point in her life a so-called witch. Let me explain this term a little bit before continuing.
If you're enjoying today's video about stories of our lives, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this and more. Now, let's get back to the video.
A witch in Venezuela and most parts of Latin America is not a woman doing satanic rituals, is someone who sells her services for good or bad, is paganism if you want to see it that way, not necessarily bad people, but not normal people, that for sure. This witch told my girlfriend's mom pretty early on that her kids, my girlfriend, were special in a way that she can be possessed by a spirit and be a channel for communicating with them. I can't remember how we call that in Spanish. At the time she told me while she was telling me all this, but I can't remember, so let's keep going. The witch, who I think was a friend of her mom, but I'm not sure at all, told her mom that she could do it, but needed someone to train her, and she wanted to do it. She wanted to train her. The thing that she never did, at least not that I know. We hardly told after we broke up. So, we broke up. Some time passed, like a few months. I stopped being friends with her cousin, and I didn't end up on good terms with her. Now another friend told me, Alicia told me, that when you guys kissed the first time, you were thinking in. I'm using Alicia as her name, but is not her real name, so, I'll be honest, my friend was making fun of me really hard. You know the deal. I told him she was wrong and crazy, blah blah blah. She wasn't wrong at all. She was completely 100% accurate, even though they both didn't have a way to know that. To this day, they don't have any reason to know that. It spooked the heck out of me. I got really scared and tried to never speak with her ever again. I saw her a couple of times more in chit-chat. One time I ran into her in a store. So that's the story. May seem like BS, and I know it doesn't seem like a big deal for you, but to this day it is what keeps that spark on me, that there are things we just don't know how to measure yet and we can't study properly. Thank you for reading, and sorry for my bad English.
My childhood home was haunted. I lived in my childhood home from when I was a baby until 13. My family is very religious, and as a child, I was taught that when you die you either go to heaven or hell, and that's it. I was never told about anything supernatural, so in a lot of these moments, I had no idea what I was experiencing. It wasn't until I was older that I understood. Also, because I was so young for some of these, or I didn't understand them at the moment, I only remember some details. The last story is probably the scariest, and I tear up every time I talk about it. I wanted to do this in chronological order, but I honestly can't remember which of these happened first, so I'll kind of combine them because they involve the same entity. In elementary school, I walked home from school every day since it was only about a 15-minute walk. The house next door to us was abandoned for quite a few years after the last neighbors moved out, and I walked past it every day. Pretty frequently, I would see this girl in the top floor window, and she looked to be around the same age as me, maybe a little older. Curly, dirty blonde hair, pink bow in her hair, wearing a pink and white frilly dress. I never really thought much about her and just went home. There was one time though that made me really confused. I was with my sister in her room playing with Barbies. She had a shuttered window in her room that faced the backyard. We were playing, and I'm really not sure why, but I had the strongest feeling that I needed to open the window, so I did. The girl was in our backyard standing in front of the slide. I wasn't scared and was just staring at her. She continued to stand there, and I'm not sure how long we were looking at each other, but she eventually began to fade away. The best way I can describe it is when you stare at a light bulb and look away and you can still see the outline. It was kind of like that until she was just gone. It sounds stupid now because if I saw that now, I would freak out, but after she was gone, I just kept playing with my sister as if nothing happened. I would see this girl pretty often, but she never scared me. This one is short, but it was the middle of the night and I was asleep. I was maybe 5 or 6. I was suddenly woken up by a hard punch to the stomach. After recovering and calming down, I went to my parents' room, and they told me it was nerves. So, I believed them. I absolutely hated my parents' room. The feeling and energy in there were so heavy and dark. The feeling of panic would wash over me every time I was there. On multiple occasions, I would see things in there when walking to and from my room. The scariest entity I ever saw was standing on the right of their bed. It had skin that looked like tar and it was taller than the ceiling, so it had to bend to fit in the room. I don't remember if it had a face. I eventually stopped looking in their room entirely. I hated when my parents would ask me to grab something for them in their room. I would sprint out every time. One time I had walked home from school, and it was very hot. So, when I got home, I threw my hair up into a ponytail to cool off. I walked into my room, and I immediately feel fingers grip my ponytail and start pulling me back to my parents' room. Context: all of our bedrooms were in the same hallway and mine was directly across from my parents' room. My dad and I roughhoused a lot, and my parents knew I was terrified of their room. It didn't hurt and I thought it was my dad messing around, and he's a big guy, so I went to elbow him in the stomach and hit nothing. Confused, I looked down and saw no feet behind me. Just as the panic started to hit, it dropped me right in front of my parents' door. I whipped my head around to see what it was, and nothing. I sat in shock for a few moments before the tears started to fall. I eventually got up and found my dad talking to my grandma in the living room. This one happened about a week before we moved out. It was only me and my grandma home. My mom took my sister to practice and my dad was out grabbing dinner. I was in the living room doing my homework on the couch. My grandma was watching TV in her room, which was to the left of me. The kitchen/dining room and the hallway with all of our bedrooms was to the right of me. The hallway is out of sight from the living room since it goes behind the dining room. I was focused on my homework when I started to hear footsteps going up and down the hallway and into the bedrooms. I thought it was my sister wearing her Disney princess costume heels. The footsteps kept going for a while, and then I realized my sister wasn't home, and it was just me and my grandma, and she was on the opposite end of the house. My cat was by my feet. My heart sank once I realized what it was, but I decided to just ignore it and not give it any attention. It eventually stopped, so I felt more relaxed. After a few minutes of quiet, I heard the loudest slam I have ever heard coming from a few feet away in the dining room. It sounded like someone picked up a boulder and slammed it on the hardwood. I was looking on the ground for what might have fallen when I heard it speak. It was multiple voices hissing and groaning my name all at once. It was the scariest thing I have ever experienced and currently have full-body chills just remembering what it sounded like. I sat in silence with tears rolling down my face, frozen in place for what felt like forever. I was too terrified to move or make a sound. I finally managed to squeak out a little grandma and nothing happened, so I started to sob calling for her. We moved out later that week, and on the first night at the new house, I had a dream. I was standing in the street outside the old house at night. It was quiet and all the lights were off. Then all of a sudden, all of the windows opened, and it was so bright inside, it looked like a lighthouse. It sounded like a party was happening, with multiple conversations going on, and you can see shapes of people moving around the house manipulating the light. And just as quickly as it started, it stopped. The windows all slammed shut, everything was quiet and dark again. Then I woke up. I haven't experienced anything close to this since moving. A few years ago, the current owners of the house invited my family over for a Super Bowl party. I decided not to go, but my sister did. She talked to the owners and asked them if they ever experienced anything weird since moving in. They were shocked, she asked, and apparently, they were seeing shadow people in and around the house looking in the windows. I hope you enjoyed reading it. Sorry, it's all over the place, it's hard to summarize 13 years, uneasy face. These are some of the scary things I can recall. If anything doesn't make sense and you want more clarification or have any questions, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos about stories of our lives. Click on one of these videos to watch more and see you soon.